$412. That's your checking account balance the Wednesday before payday. Not because you overspent, because that's just the residue left over when a $61,000 salary meets a $1,650 rent check in a city like Denver or Raleigh or anywhere that used to be called affordable 5 years ago. You wake up, you commute, you sit in a gray cubicle or a Zoom grid, you come home. You order something because cooking feels like one decision too many. You scroll until your eyes hurt, you do it again Thursday. Friday feels like a finish line, except the race starts again Monday at 6 a.m. Nobody calls this a trap while you're inside it. It just looks like a normal life. A responsible one even. You have a job, you have health insurance, you have a 401k you don't look at. By every metric anyone taught you to measure yourself by, you are fine. And fine is exactly the word that keeps people from noticing they're stuck. It doesn't end with a resignation letter and a slow-motion walk into the sun. That's the version they sell you in a thumbnail. The real version happens on a Tuesday night in February in a 2-bedroom apartment in a city like Columbus, when you're 27 and you open your bank app for a completely unremarkable reason. You're checking if a Venmo request cleared, and instead, you just sit there scrolling through categories. Rent, groceries, subscriptions you forgot existed, interest charges on a credit card you keep meaning to pay down. You open a spreadsheet you downloaded from a finance subreddit 2 years ago and never touched. You fill it in without meaning to build anything. Checking, $1,140. Savings, $2,900. 401k, $6,700. You subtract what you owe. $14,600 in student loans, $4,300 on a credit card that's been circling the same balance since your friend's wedding, $1,900 on a second card you use for gas and forget about. You put your car down at $6,000 generous. The formula spits out a number, negative $10,660. You are 27 years old, and on paper you are worth less than the phone you're reading it on. You don't cry, you don't panic, you do something quieter and more permanent. You actually see it. For the first time, the fog around your finances lifts just enough for you to notice you've been walking in a straight line toward nothing. The next month, you don't do anything dramatic. You cancel the streaming bundle you forgot you had, $47. You cancel the gym you visited twice since January, $38. You start making coffee at home instead of the $6.75 order on the way to work, another $94 a month. None of it feels like progress. It feels like giving things up, but you add it together, $315 a month you didn't know you were bleeding. You open a high-yield savings account, 4.5% APY, nothing that makes anyone rich, but real, and you set the $315 to leave your checking account the same day your paycheck lands before you can talk yourself out of it. The first month, you don't notice it's gone. That's the part that unsettles you a little. How much money can just disappear into nothing and you never feel its absence. 16 months later, on a random Sunday, you check the account and it says $10,240. You don't feel triumphant, you feel something closer to quiet, like you've been holding your breath without knowing it, and you just let a little of it out. $10,000 doesn't buy a house. It doesn't touch the student loans. But it means if your transmission goes or your dentist finds something, you don't have to choose between fixing it and making rent. You mention it once, at a work happy hour, and get a "that's awesome" and a subject change within 4 seconds. You understand then that this is going to be a private project. Nobody is coming to clap. By 30, you've started an employer-matched Roth 401k contribution up to the full match. Free money the IRS lets you shelter from taxes now in exchange for later, plus a separate Roth IRA you max out $500 a month into, chasing the $7,000 annual limit. Your credit cards are gone, paid off over 19 slow, unglamorous months. Your savings sits at $22,000. Your 401k, boosted by the match and a bull market you didn't time, at $34,000. Your student loans are down to $6,200, with a payoff date circled on a calendar nobody else has seen. You also start noticing something else, a small involuntary distance opening up between you and rooms you used to belong to completely. A coworker suggests a $350 weekend trip to Nashville, and the group says yes before the sentence is finished, the way people agree to spend money they don't actually have. You go. You can afford it now. But you watch the conversation about splitting the Airbnb like you're on the other side of a window, and you go home afterward and quietly log the expense instead of posting about it. By 33, your net worth crosses $61,000, above the median for your age group, which feels strange to be proud of because nobody around you is talking about medians. Your friends are buying houses with down payments that arrived from somewhere unmentioned. They're leasing SUVs that cost more monthly than your rent did at 26. They're posting Cabo with no explanation of the math behind it. You're putting $700 a month into a taxable brokerage account that does absolutely nothing exciting. You realize some of your friendships were built on a shared complaint. We're all underwater, we're all stuck. Isn't this economy impossible? And you've quietly stopped agreeing with it. Not because you think you're better, because your calm doesn't fit the group text anymore, and some people don't know what to do with that. At 35, it's 11:40 p.m. on a Sunday and you can't sleep, so you open the real spreadsheet, every account, every debt, current to the day, and scroll to the bottom. $118,900 net after everything. The student loans are gone, closed out 14 months ago, with an anticlimax so total you made dinner afterward and didn't tell anyone. Your 401k sits at $71,000. You bought into a small rental property 2 states away with your cousin and a mutual friend. Your share is worth about $16,000 on paper. More some months, less others. 8 years, and nobody has clapped once. Your parents don't know the number. Your closest friend doesn't know the number. You carry it the way you'd carry a second language nobody around you speaks. It doesn't look like a Lamborghini or a viral resignation post. It looks like this. You go into the office on a Thursday, sit through the same status meeting, drink coffee from the same chipped mug, and something underneath your relationship to the job has quietly rearranged itself. At 27, losing this job would have been a 5-alarm emergency. No cushion, 3 weeks from a missed rent payment, calling your parents at midnight. Now, it would be a decision. You'd have runway. You'd have time to be wrong about your next move and survive being wrong anyway. That's the entire distance between 27 and now. It was never about the size of the number. It's about what the number lets you choose. Not freedom in the cinematic sense. No yacht, no plane ticket bought on a whim. Freedom in the boring structural sense. The gap between catastrophe and inconvenience. The kind of gap that lets you say no to a manager who's grinding you down without running 2 a.m. math on how many weeks of rent you have left. Almost nobody gets handed that gap. Life expands to absorb every raise. A car payment that grows with the promotion, a longer commute, a parent who needs help, a surprise nobody saw coming. The treadmill is efficient specifically because it rarely feels like a choice while you're standing on it. There were nights you almost quit the plan. At 29, a financial advisor at your own bank looked at your savings rate and told you that you were being too conservative, that you should enjoy your 20s while you still could. Advice that benefits exactly one person in that conversation, and it wasn't you. At 31, a relationship ended over it, slowly, not all at once. It started with a vacation you said you'd rather not do this year, then a car lease she wanted and you didn't think you could justify yet, then a deposit on a nicer apartment you weren't ready to sign for. She wasn't wrong to want those things. You weren't wrong to wait. But there's no clean way to say, out loud, in a parking lot at midnight, I'm choosing a number in a spreadsheet over your timeline. So you said it badly instead, and she heard the true thing underneath the bad sentence. 3 weeks later, she was gone. You made the transfer into the brokerage account that month anyway. Some part of you had already decided which kind of loss you could live with. None of that shows up in the spreadsheet. It doesn't compound. It's just the part of the math nobody puts in the thumbnail. You're 37 now, early morning, the kind where the light hasn't decided what color it wants to be yet. You're at a kitchen table in an apartment you picked because the windows face east, not because it was the cheapest listing. Your assets sit around $210,000. Your income, after 2 job changes and 3 uncomfortable negotiations, is $98,000, which means something different now than it would have at 27. You open the laptop, not to the budget spreadsheet this time, but to a different number, what you could live on for 2 years without touching a single investment. Not lavishly. Not a resignation video kind of stopping, but you could pause, you could breathe, you could figure out what you actually want the next chapter to look like without panic holding the pen for you. $44,000 in cash sitting in an account earning real interest, doing nothing but existing. Most Americans don't have 2 months of expenses saved, let alone 2 years. You built this without a trust fund, without a mentor, without anyone watching. The freedom to choose your own Thursday. The freedom to say no without it becoming a crisis. The freedom to be unremarkable on purpose, because you no longer need anyone's applause to feel secure. You close the laptop, you make coffee, the $14 a bag kind that takes 4 extra minutes and tastes like it. There's a text from your cousin about the rental property's water heater. Whichever option you 3 pick will run somewhere between $1,800 and $3,200. At 27, a number like that would have ended your month. It would have meant a call to your parents or a credit card or both. At 37, it's a text you'll answer after breakfast. That's the part nobody tells you about escaping the rat race. You don't stop having problems. The water heater is still a problem. The decision is still a decision. What changes is who the problem belongs to, whether it owns a piece of you or whether you're just the person handling it today, calmly, before the day even really starts. You don't know yet what you'll tell your cousin. You drink your coffee slowly anyway. That's what all of it bought. Not the property, not the 401k, not the coffee itself. Just the ability to decide what matters before the panic gets there first.